Imagine discovering that the person you trust most is hiding such a dark secret that it could destroy not only your friendship, but also the lives of innocent people. Sarah thought she knew Emma better than anyone. After all, they had been best friends for 15 years, since college. But when Sarah decided to surprise Emma for her birthday, what she discovered at her friend's house left her completely devastated. A discovery that would reveal a web of lies so complex that Sarah would question everything she thought she knew about the person closest to her. What Sarah found that day would change their lives forever, and what you're about to discover will leave you shocked. Sarah Martinez had always been the type of person who believes the best in people. At 34, she worked as a nurse at a Seattle hospital and had a well-structured routine. She woke up early, went to work, came home, and at least 3 times a week she met with Emma Thompson, her best friend since their days at the University of Washington. Emma was everything Sarah admired in a person: successful, generous, and always willing to help. She worked as a financial consultant and lived in an elegant house in the Queen Anne neighborhood, one of Seattle's most expensive areas. Sarah was always impressed by her friend's luxurious lifestyle, but never questioned it. Emma explained that her investments had done very well, and that some important clients paid very well for her services. "You deserve all of this, Sarah used to say, admiring the expensive furniture and artwork that decorated her friend's house. "You worked so hard to get where you are." Emma would just smile, a smile that Sarah would later realize never reached her eyes. Their friendship was solid. They shared everything: romantic disappointments, professional achievements, fears, dreams. Or at least, that's what Sarah thought. Emma had always been a bit reserved about her past and family, but Sarah respected that. After all, not everyone needs to share every detail of their life, right? Emma's birthday was approaching. She would turn 35, and Sarah wanted to do something special. She planned a surprise. She would prepare her friend's favorite dinner and decorate her house with photos of special moments. They had lived together over the years. She had a spare key, which Emma had given her years ago for emergencies. On the Thursday before the birthday, Sarah left the hospital early. She had managed to switch shifts with a colleague and was excited about the surprise. She stopped at the market, bought all the ingredients for the famous grilled salmon with asparagus that Emma loved, and headed to her friend's house in the late afternoon. Upon entering the house, Sarah noticed something strange. There were voices coming from the office on the second floor. Emma hadn't mentioned she would have visitors, and she usually warned about these details. Sarah hesitated for a moment, holding the shopping bags. Maybe she should leave and come back later. But then she heard something that made her freeze in place. "The money needs to be transferred by Friday, or we'll have serious problems," said a male voice she didn't recognize. I know, Emma replied, but her tone was different from usual. She was tense, almost desperate. I just need a few more days to get the last batch of documents. Emma, you promised this would be simple, quick. The investors are getting impatient. And you know what happens when they get impatient. Sarah felt her heart race. What investors? Emma had never mentioned being involved in something so ... threatening. The man's voice had a tone that sent a chill down her spine. Slowly, Sarah climbed the first steps of the stairs, trying to hear better. The voices became clearer. Look, Tony, I managed to forge the documents for the last 3 clients without problems. But this one is different. It's an entire family with children. If something goes wrong, ... double quotes, forged documents. Sarah had to lean on the handrail. Her best friend, the person she admired for her integrity and honesty, was ... a criminal. Emma, you knew what you were getting into when you agreed to work with us. This isn't the time to develop a moral conscience. Sarah heard footsteps approaching the office door and panicked. She went down the stairs as quietly as possible, left the bags in the kitchen, and left the house. With her hands trembling so much she could barely put the key in the lock. Sitting in her car, 2 blocks away, Sarah tried to process what she had just heard. Emma was involved in something illegal. Something that involved document forgery and dangerous people. And the worst part, she was doing this with families, innocent people who trusted her. How could she, Sarah, who prided herself on being a good judge of character, have been deceived for 15 years by the person she trusted most? Sarah spent the entire night awake, going over every conversation, every moment, every small detail of the last 15 years of friendship. Now everything made sense in a disturbing way. The frequent business trips Emma took, always to different cities. The money that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The evasive way she talked about her special clients. And especially the way she always changed the subject when Sarah asked about specific details of her work. How could I have been so blind? Sarah murmured to herself, pacing around her small but honest apartment in Capitol Hill. On Friday morning, she tried to act normally at the hospital, but her colleagues noticed something was wrong. During lunch, her supervisor, Janet, struck up a conversation. Are you okay, Sarah? You seem worried about something. Sarah almost told everything. Almost. But then she realized she wasn't absolutely sure about what she had heard. What if it was a misunderstanding? What if Emma was helping these families somehow? Maybe there was a logical explanation. Just personal problems, Janet. Nothing major. But deep down, Sarah knew she needed to find out the truth. That afternoon, instead of going straight home, Sarah drove to the Seattle Public Library. She sat at a public computer and began researching Emma Thompson. She had never done this before. It seemed like an invasion of privacy to investigate her best friend. But after what she heard the day before, she felt she had no choice. The first results showed Emma's normal professional profile. Graduated in economics from the University of Washington. Worked at some smaller financial consulting firms before opening her own business. Nothing suspicious so far. But then Sarah decided to dig deeper. She searched public records, local news sites, everything she could find. That's when she discovered something that left her even more confused. Emma Thompson had been arrested 2 years earlier in Portland, Oregon, on suspicion of document fraud. The case had been dismissed for lack of evidence. But the accusations were serious. Forging immigration documents for illegal families in the country. Sarah read and reread the news several times. The dates matched exactly with one of the business trips Emma had taken. At the time, she said she was helping a family with financial planning to buy a house. Technically, she wasn't completely lying. Sarah's heart raced when she realized the connection. Emma wasn't just stealing money. She was involved in a scheme that played with the dreams and safety of immigrant families. People who were already in vulnerable situations, who trusted her to get a better life in the United States. Sarah printed all the articles she found and drove home with her mind racing. She had to confront Emma, but how? What if she denied everything? What if it became dangerous? That's when she remembered the man at Emma's house. This Tony guy. The threatening tone in his voice had been real. Emma could be in danger too. Or was she an active part of all this? That night, Sarah made a decision. She called Emma. "Hi, Em. How are you? Sorry, I couldn't talk to you yesterday. An emergency came up at the hospital." "Oh, hi, Sarah. No problem. Actually, I also had a busy day. Lots of meetings." Sarah noticed something in Emma's voice. She was tense, tired. Very different from her usual cheerful tone. "Em, I was thinking, how about we have dinner together tomorrow? We can talk like in the old days." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Sarah, I've been kind of busy lately. Maybe next week." "Emma, we've been friends for 15 years. When was the last time you canceled a meeting with me?" Another pause. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, and this time the concern in her voice was genuine, despite all the confusion she felt. It's complicated, Sarah, but I promise next week we'll talk properly, okay?" After hanging up the phone, Sarah was sure of one thing. Emma was afraid. The question now was whether it was fear of being discovered or fear of people like Tony, and Sarah had less than 24 hours to find out the truth before making the most difficult decision of her life. Sarah couldn't sleep. At 6 a.m. on Saturday, she was already up, making coffee and trying to decide what her next step would be. She had two options: confront Emma directly or look for more evidence first. She decided on the second option. She took the car and drove to Emma's neighborhood. She didn't intend to enter the house again, but she wanted to observe. See if there was anything suspicious, other visitors like Tony, anything that could confirm or deny her suspicions. She parked 3 blocks away and walked to a coffee shop with a view of Emma's street. She ordered a coffee and sat at the table near the window, pretending to read a book while observing. That's when she saw something that confirmed her worst fears. A black car stopped in front of Emma's house. From it came two people: a tall man who seemed to be the Tony from the previous conversation, and a Latin woman with a small child in her arms and a boy of maybe 6 years holding her hand. Sarah watched the family enter Emma's house. Half an hour later, only Tony and Emma came out. The family had remained inside. Sarah's heart raced. What was happening to that family? When Tony left, Sarah waited a few minutes and then made a decision that would change everything. She called Emma. "Em, it's me. I'm passing by your street and saw you were home. Can I come up? I really need to talk to you." Silence on the other end. Sarah. "It's not a good time. ... Double quotes. Emma, I know." The words came out before Sarah could think better. "You know what? I know about the documents, about Tony, about the families." The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. "Come in," Emma said finally, with her voice almost inaudible. Sarah crossed the street with trembling legs. When Emma opened the door, she barely recognized her friend. Emma was pale, with deep, dark circles, and her hands were visibly trembling. "Where are they?" Sarah asked directly. "Who?" "The family I saw enter here an hour ago." Emma closed her eyes and leaned against the doorframe. "Sarah, you don't understand the situation." "Then explain it to me." The two sat in the living room, the same place where they had shared so many laughs, secrets, and special moments over the years. "It started 3 years ago," Emma said, avoiding looking directly at Sarah. "I was having financial difficulties after some investments went wrong. Tony approached me, offering a simple job: help immigrant families get documents, fake documents. I told myself I was helping people, that I was giving them a chance to live the American dream." Sarah felt a mixture of anger and now it's out of control. Tony isn't just charging money from these families. He's keeping some of them in safe houses until the documents are ready. But sometimes it takes weeks, months. "You mean there's a family trapped in your basement right now?" Emma confirmed with an almost imperceptible nod. "I want out, Sarah. But Tony said that if I try to leave or report anything, he'll hurt them and he'll come after me too. Sarah was silent for a long moment, processing everything. Her best friend wasn't exactly the cruel criminal she had imagined, but she also wasn't the innocent victim that part of her hoped to find. Emma, we need to call the police. No, if we do that, Tony will disappear and these families will be trapped in other places with worse people. At least here, I make sure they're well treated. This isn't life, Em, for them or for you. Sarah got up and walked to the window. Seeing the quiet street of one of Seattle's safest neighborhoods, where no one suspected that terrible crimes were happening behind closed doors. I'm going to help you, she said finally. But we're going to do this the right way. I'm going to call a lawyer I know, specialized in immigration. We'll find a way to protect these families and get you out of this situation. Emma started crying. For the first time in years, they were tears of hope. Do you still consider me your friend after all this? Sarah looked at Emma, the person she had known for half her life, who had helped shape who she was, who had made terrible mistakes, but still had a chance to do the right thing. Real friends don't abandon each other in the worst moments, Sarah replied. But they also don't stay silent when the right thing needs to be done. 2 weeks later, Tony and 6 other people were arrested in a federal police operation. Emma collaborated with the authorities and got a plea agreement. The families were placed in protection programs and received adequate legal help. Emma served 1 year of house arrest and lost her license to work as a financial consultant. But she gained something she had lost a long time ago: the ability to look at herself in the mirror without feeling shame. The friendship between Sarah and Emma was never the same. It couldn't be. But both learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is having the courage to do the right thing, even when it's the hardest. This story shows us how people we love can be fighting battles we don't know about, making choices we would never imagine. Sometimes helping someone means having the courage to confront uncomfortable truths and make difficult decisions. How many times do we fail to act because it's easier to pretend we don't know? How many times do we choose our comfort over doing what's right? If this story touched you in some way, please like it. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that will make you reflect on the complex dilemmas of human life. And tell me in the comments, from which city or country are you watching? I love knowing that our stories reach such different places. Your participation is what makes this community special. Until the next story.